The year was 22,487 AD, and humanity had been forgotten. The Galactic Concord, a sprawling alliance of 147 sentient species, taught its children that humans were once a proud race who spoke too loudly, built too boldly, and vanished without explanation. For 20,000 years, no human voice had echoed through the stars. Their ships were found adrift in the void, empty husks with no crew, no records, no trace of life. Some believed they destroyed themselves in a final war. Others whispered they were erased by something far older and darker than any civilization could imagine. On the research station Nara 7, orbiting the edge of the Milky Way's spiral arm, a young xenolinguist named Ji-hoon stared at his screen. He wasn't supposed to be working late tonight. His shift ended hours ago, but something about the data gnawed at him. It was faint, almost imperceptible, a rhythmic pulse buried deep within the cosmic background radiation. Ji-hoon leaned closer, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he filtered out interference from nearby stars, pulsars, and Concord communications. What remained was strange. Too deliberate to be random, too consistent to be natural. "Are you still here?" a voice asked behind him. Ji-hoon jumped, nearly knocking over his coffee cup. Turning, he saw Yoonji, his supervisor. She was tall, with sharp features softened by exhaustion, her dark hair tied back into a messy bun. Like most scientists on Nara 7, she rarely slept more than 4 hours a night. "I thought I told you to go home," she said, crossing her arms. "I was just checking something," Ji-hoon replied sheepishly. "There's this signal, it's weird. I think it might be artificial." Yoonji raised an eyebrow. "Artificial? From what?" He hesitated. "I don't know yet. But look." He gestured toward the monitor. On the screen, a series of peaks and valleys formed a pattern. It repeated every 37 minutes like clockwork. Yoonji frowned, leaning in for a closer look. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the waveform. "It's not one of ours," she murmured, "and it's definitely not Krithani or Valiant tech. Those patterns are chaotic. This is precise." "That's what I thought," Ji-hoon said, excitement bubbling in his chest. "Could it be human?" Yoonji straightened abruptly, her expression hardening. "Don't say that word so casually. You know how the Concord feels about humanity. They're gone, Ji-hoon. Extinct. Whatever this is, it's not them." But Ji-hoon couldn't let it go. What if it is? What if someone survived? Or what if this is some kind of message left behind? Yoonji sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Listen, I get it. Everyone dreams of finding proof that humanity didn't die screaming into the void. But chasing ghosts won't do us any good. Focus on your actual work, okay?" She turned to leave, but Ji-hoon called after her. "Wait, just give me a little more time."
"If I can clean up the signal, maybe we'll find something concrete. Please." Yoonji paused, glancing back at him.
There was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, quickly masked. Finally, she nodded. "Fine, one day. But if you come up empty-handed, drop it. Understand?" "Yes," Ji-hoon said quickly. "Thank you." As Yoonji disappeared down the corridor, Ji-hoon turned back to his workstation with renewed determination. He spent the next several hours refining the signal, isolating it from background noise until it stood out clearly against the static. When he played it back, the rhythm was undeniable. It wasn't speech exactly, but it felt intentional, like a heartbeat synchronized with the universe itself. By dawn, Ji-hoon had made another discovery. The signal wasn't just repeating, it was encoding information. Slowly, painstakingly, he began decoding it. At first, the results were gibberish, long strings of numbers and symbols that defied logic. Then suddenly, a fragment emerged, a sequence of prime numbers followed by coordinates pointing to a region of space near the outer Oort cloud. Ji-hoon's hands trembled as he cross-referenced the location. It matched the last known position of a legendary vessel, the SS Hwaseong. Launched 20 millennia ago, the ship carried 12,000 souls fleeing a dying Earth. Its mission to find a new home among the stars. No one knew what happened to it. Until now. Heart-pounding, Ji-hoon grabbed his notes and hurried to Yoonji's office. She looked up from her desk as he burst in, breathless and wide-eyed. "What is it?" she demanded. "I found something," he blurted. "The signal, it's leading us to the Hwaseong." Yoonji froze, her pen slipping from her fingers. For a moment she said nothing, her face unreadable. Then slowly she stood. "Show me." Together they reviewed the data. The evidence was undeniable. The signal originated from the same sector where the Huashong disappeared, and it contained fragments of human language, words encoded in mathematical patterns. "This changes everything," Yunji whispered, her voice trembling. "If this is real." "It is," Ji-hoon insisted. "We have to tell someone. We have to investigate," Yunji shook her head. "No, not yet. If the Concord hears about this, they'll send a fleet. They'll destroy whatever's out there before we even understand it. We need to handle this ourselves," Ji-hoon blinked. "You mean break protocol?" "I mean protect the truth," Yunji corrected. "If humanity really did survive, if they've been hiding all this time, we owe it to them to listen first. To learn." For a long moment, Ji-hoon stared at her, weighing the risks. Breaking Concord law could mean imprisonment or worse. But the idea of uncovering humanity's secret was irresistible. "Okay," he said finally. "What do we do?" Hunji smiled faintly. "First we gather supplies. Then we go." Over the next few days, they prepared in secret. Ji-hoon downloaded every scrap of information he could find about the Huashong. Yunji requisitioned a small shuttle under the guise of routine maintenance. They enlisted the help of Minsu, a former soldier-turned-pacifist monk who worked maintenance on Nara 7. Though skeptical at first, Minsu agreed to join them when Yunji explained the stakes. "The Concord thinks humanity is dead," she told him. "But what if they're wrong? What if they've been waiting for us to find them?" Minsu nodded solemnly. "Then we must answer their call." When the preparations were complete, the trio boarded the shuttle and set course for the coordinates. As they left Nara 7 behind, Ji-hoon gazed out the viewport at the endless expanse of stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's silence awaited them, and perhaps, just perhaps, it would speak again. This concludes Part 1. Let me know when you're ready for Part 2. The shuttle hummed quietly as it drifted through the cold, dark expanse of space. Ji-hoon sat in the co-pilot's seat, his eyes glued to the navigation screen. The coordinates they were heading toward were deep in the outer Oort cloud, a region so remote that even the Concord rarely ventured there. It was a graveyard of ancient comets and forgotten debris, a place where silence reigned supreme. But now, thanks to the mysterious signal, it felt alive, charged with possibility. Yunji piloted the shuttle with steady hands, her gaze fixed ahead. She hadn't spoken much since they left Nara 7, her mind clearly preoccupied. Minsu sat in the back, meditating cross-legged on the floor. His breathing was slow and rhythmic, a stark contrast to the tension in the air. Ji-hoon glanced at him occasionally, wondering how someone could remain so calm when they were about to uncover one of the greatest mysteries in galactic history. As the hours passed, the shuttle approached the designated location. The signal grew stronger, its rhythmic pulse filling the cabin like a heartbeat. Ji-hoon adjusted the sensors, trying to pinpoint its exact origin. Finally, he found it, a faint glimmer among the endless blackness. At first, it looked like nothing more than a speck of light, but as they drew closer, the shape became clearer. "It's a ship," Yunji said softly, her voice tinged with awe. Ji-hoon leaned forward, his heart racing. The vessel loomed before them, massive and battered. Its hull was scarred with craters from micrometeorites, its surface coated in a thick layer of asteroid dust. Despite the damage, the ship still bore the faded emblem of Earth, a blue and white globe surrounded by stars. Beneath it, barely legible, were the words SS Huashong. "Is it real?" Ji-hoon whispered, almost afraid to believe what he was seeing. Yunji didn't answer. Instead, she guided the shuttle toward the ship's docking bay. As they entered, the interior lights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with rusted metal panels. The silence inside was oppressive, broken only by the creak of old machinery and the occasional groan of shifting metal. "This place hasn't been touched in millennia," Minsu murmured, stepping out of the shuttle. He ran a hand along the wall, brushing away layers of dust. "It feels haunted." "Stay focused," Yunji said sharply. "We're here for answers, not ghost stories." They split up to cover more ground. Ji-hoon took the lead, scanning the walls with a handheld device. Every few steps he stopped to examine something. A scorch mark here, a fragment of circuitry there. The ship was a tomb frozen in time. Empty cryopods lined the corridors, their glass cracked or fogged with frost. Personal belongings lay scattered across the floor. Books, toys, tools, all covered in centuries of dust. But then Ji-hoon noticed something unusual. On one of the walls, someone had etched symbols into the metal. They weren't random scratches. They were deliberate, forming patterns that resembled writing. He called Yunji over, pointing excitedly. "Look at this. It's some kind of code." Yunji studied the markings carefully. "It's a cipher," she said after a moment. "A way to encode information. Whoever did this wanted to leave a message but make sure it wasn't easy to read." Ji-hoon nodded. "Do you think you can decode it?" "I'll try." She pulled out her tablet and began entering the symbols. After several minutes of intense concentration, a text file appeared on the screen. It was fragmented and disjointed but recognizable as human language. "What does it say?" Ji-hoon asked eagerly. Yunji scrolled through the document, her brow furrowed. "It's a log entry. From someone named Daewon." "Daewon?" Ji-hoon repeated. "Who's that?" "One of the crew members, I assume." Yunji continued reading aloud. "Day 4572, we've reached the edge of known space. The entity follows us still. It consumes everything it touches, planets, stars, civilizations. We thought we could outrun it, but it is relentless. Our only hope is to become invisible, to erase ourselves." Ji-hoon frowned. "Invisible? What does that mean?" Yunji shook her head. "I don't know yet. Keep looking for more clues." They moved deeper into the ship, searching every room and corridor. In the central chamber, they found what appeared to be a data vault. The door was sealed shut, its controls long dead. Ji-hoon worked quickly to bypass the lock, using tools from the shuttle. With a loud hiss, the door slid open, revealing rows of storage units filled with crystalline drives. "These must contain the ship's archives," Yunji said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Everything they recorded during their journey." Minsu stepped forward, holding up a small device. "I brought a portable reader. Let's see what's inside." They connected the drives to the reader, watching as streams of data appeared on the screen. There were logs, videos, audio recordings, all preserved in astonishing detail. Ji-hoon selected one at random and played it. A grainy image flickered to life, showing a man in a tattered uniform standing in front of a camera. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow, but his voice was steady. "This is Captain Daewon," he said. "If you're watching this, then we have failed. Humanity has chosen silence to survive. We stripped away our language, our culture, our memories. We became ghosts, hoping the entity would pass us by. But if you are here, it means the entity has returned, or worse, it knows we exist." The recording ended abruptly, leaving the trio in stunned silence. Ji-hoon turned to Yunji, his expression grim. "So, humanity didn't die. They erased themselves to hide. But why?" Minsu asked. "What kind of enemy forces an entire species to abandon who they are?" Yunji sighed, rubbing her temples. "Something unimaginable. Something beyond anything we've ever faced." They spent hours combing through the archives, piecing together fragments of the story. The Hwaseong had been fleeing not just from Earth's destruction, but from something far older and more terrifying, the cosmic entity mentioned in the logs. It consumed civilizations by absorbing their essence, their language, their art, their very identity. To escape, humanity had made the ultimate sacrifice. They silenced themselves, becoming indistinguishable from the void. But the logs also hinted at another truth. Somewhere aboard the ship there was a survivor, someone who had stayed awake while the rest slept in cryopods, preserving the memory of what humanity once was. The entries referred to this person as the Keeper, a guardian of humanity's legacy. "We need to find them," Ji-hoon said firmly. "Whoever they are, they might hold the key to understanding everything." Yunji nodded. "Agreed. Let's keep searching." They pressed on, venturing deeper into the bowels of the ship. The corridors grew darker, the air colder. The silence seemed heavier, almost suffocating. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. "What happened?" Ji-hoon exclaimed, fumbling for his flashlight. "Power surge," Yunji muttered, tapping at her wrist console. "The ship's systems are failing. We don't have much time." Minsu lit a small lantern, casting a warm glow around them. "We should hurry. This place doesn't feel safe anymore." They quickened their pace, following the faint hum of machinery. Eventually, they reached a sealed chamber at the heart of the ship. Unlike the rest of the vessel, this door was intact, its surface smooth and unblemished. Etched into the metal were the same symbols they'd seen earlier, the cipher. "This is it," Yunji said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Keeper's chamber." Using the lantern's light, she decoded the symbols, unlocking the door. Inside, they found a figure seated in the center of the room, wrapped in biofilaments that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Its form was humanoid, but barely. Its skin was translucent, its eyes like fractured glass. Thin wires extended from its body, connecting it to a network of machines. Ji-hoon stared in disbelief. Is that human? Eunji approached cautiously, her footsteps echoing softly. It's alive, she said, checking the readings on her scanner. Barely. The figure stirred, its head tilting slightly. When it spoke, its voice was a distorted whisper, like static on an old radio. You've come. At last. Who are you? Hyunji asked gently. I am Daewon, it replied. The last. The keeper. This concludes part 2. Let me know when you're ready for part 3. The chamber was silent except for the soft hiss of life support systems and the slow, uneven breathing of the figure before them. Daewon, once a man, now something else, sat motionless, wrapped in glowing threads of biofilament that pulsed like veins beneath his skin. His eyes, hollow and glassy, turned slowly toward the 3 visitors. They didn't move. They couldn't, not yet, not until they understood what they were seeing. Yoonji took a step forward. You're alive, she whispered. The voice came again, broken, slow, as if each word cost him something. Alive, yes, but not as you know it. Ji-hoon stood frozen, his breath shallow. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times. Finding a survivor, hearing a human voice after 20,000 years of silence. But this was not what he expected. This was not a man. Not really. It was a memory made flesh. Min-soo stayed back, his lantern held low. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His quiet presence felt like a prayer. Daewon's fingers twitched. One of the filaments around his arm shimmered, and a thin beam of light shot out, projecting a hologram above the floor. It showed a ship, not the Hwaseong, but a much older one. Earth, blue and green, swirling with clouds. People walking on streets, children laughing. A woman singing to a baby. A man planting a tree. Your world, Daewon said. Before the silence, Ji-hoon's throat tightened. You kept this? All this time? Yes, the voice cracked. I remembered. So you would not forget. Yoonji stepped closer. Why stay? Why not join the others? Why not sleep and let the past die? Daewon's head tilted slightly as if confused by the question. Sleep is easy. To forget is easier. But if no one remembers, then we were never here. And if we were never here, then the thing that hunted us wins. The hologram faded. The room grew darker. Ji-hoon swallowed hard. What hunted you? The silence stretched. Then slowly Daewon raised one trembling hand. The filament around it glowed brighter and a new image appeared. Not a planet, not a person, but a shape. A swirling mass of dark gas and light, stretching across light years. It moved like smoke, but with purpose. It didn't burn. It didn't explode. It simply absorbed. Stars vanished inside it. Entire civilizations blinked out like candle flames. No screams. No explosions, just silence. That, Daewon whispered, is the listener. Yoonji's hands clenched. The listener? It does not speak. It does not attack. It listens. And when it hears too much, it takes. Daewon's voice grew weaker. Language, music, stories, memories, all the things that make you. It does not kill you. It makes you quiet. Like a child who stops crying because no one answers. You stop being. You become nothing. Ji-hoon felt cold. So, humanity didn't die. We became quiet. Yes. Daewon nodded slowly. We stopped singing. Stopped telling stories. Stopped speaking our names. We erased our history. We changed our bodies so the listener could not hear us. We became shadows. We became ghosts. And we waited. Min-soo finally spoke. And now, it's waking up. Daewon looked at him. Yes, the 3 of them exchanged glances. The truth was heavier than gravity. Ji-hoon looked at the hologram one last time. The earth, the tree, the child singing. We're not just here to find you, he said quietly. We're here to bring back what you lost. Daewon closed his eyes. You cannot. Not without risk. Yoonji stepped forward, her voice firm. Then tell us what to do. For a long time, Daewon did not answer. The filaments around him dimmed, then brightened again as if his body was struggling to stay alive. Finally he spoke. The listener is not evil. It is not cruel, it is a law of the universe. Like gravity, like time. It has always been. and it will always be. But it does not know what silence truly means. He opened his eyes again, and for the first time there was something in them, not just sorrow, but hope. You came here because you heard a signal. You came because you remembered. That is the first time in 20,000 years that someone has remembered. And now, the listener feels it. Ji-hoon's chest tightened. It knows we're here? Yes, and now. It is coming, Yoonji's breath caught. How long? Not long, Daewon said. The conquered. They make noise. They shout. They fight. They sing songs of war and pride. They do not know what they are doing. But the listener hears them. Minsu lowered his lantern. So if we go back, we'll lead it to them. Daewon nodded. Yes. Ji-hoon felt his stomach drop. Then we have to warn them. Yoonji shook her head. They won't listen. The conquered sees us as ghosts. They see the Hwashong as a threat. If we return with this story, they'll destroy the ship. They'll destroy you, and they'll never believe what happened. Ji-hoon looked at her. Then what do we do? Eunji looked at Daewon.
Can you help us?
Can you show them? Can you make them understand? Daewon's body trembled. The filaments flickered. I am dying. I have held on too long. My body is broken. My mind is fading. But your memories? Ji-hoon asked quickly. Can you give them to us? Can you let us carry them? Daewon looked at him. For the first time his voice grew stronger. Yes. He reached out, not with his hand, but with the filaments. One thin strand stretched out, touching Ji-hoon's forehead. A cold shock ran through him. Then images, sounds, voices, a woman humming a lullaby. A man laughing as he cooked food. A child drawing a star with crayons. 100,000 moments, all human. All lost, all remembered. Ji-hoon gasped. Tears filled his eyes. He didn't cry because he was sad. He cried because he felt it. Every heartbeat, every breath, every word that had ever been spoken by a human. He felt them. He knew them. And then the connection ended. Daewon slumped back. The filaments dimmed. His breathing slowed. Yoonji knelt beside him. Thank you, she whispered. Daewon smiled, a small, tired thing. You are not alone. Ji-hoon wiped his eyes. We have to go back. We have to tell them. Minsu nodded. But how? They'll think we're lying. Yoonji stood up, her face hardening with purpose. We don't tell them. We show them. She turned to the machines around Daewon. The ship's core, can it transmit? Can it send everything? All the logs? All the memories? All the songs? Daewon's lips moved barely. Yes, the core is still alive. It can send it to the stars, Ji-hoon's heart pounded. You mean broadcast it? To the whole conquered? Yes, Daewon's voice was fading now. Let them hear what they forgot. Yoonji looked at the two of them. We go back. We send the signal. Not as a warning, not as a plea, but as a gift. Minsu looked at Daewon. Will you be okay? Daewon didn't answer. His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow. Ji-hoon stepped forward. We'll come back. We'll bring you home. Daewon's hand twitched, once like a final heartbeat. Then silence. The three of them stood there, in the dark, surrounded by the last memory of humanity. They didn't speak. They didn't cry. They simply took a deep breath and turned to leave. They boarded the shuttle with heavy hearts and full minds. Ji-hoon carried a small data crystal, glowing faintly with the weight of 20,000 years. Eunji set the course for Nara 7. Minsu sat quietly, holding his lantern like a candle in the dark. As the shuttle pulled away from the Hwashong, they looked back one last time. The great ship sat in the void, silent and still. But now it was no longer empty. It was sacred. Back on Nara 7, they were met with suspicion. Security drones surrounded the shuttle before it even docked. Officers in armored suits stormed the ramp, weapons raised. Stand down, one shouted. You've breached conquered protocol. You've entered a forbidden zone. Eunji didn't raise her hands. She didn't beg. She didn't explain. She simply stepped forward and pressed the crystal into the nearest officer's hand. Listen, she said. The officer frowned. What is this? Humanity, she answered. The last of them, and their last gift. The officer hesitated. Then slowly he activated the crystal. A voice filled the room, a woman's voice, soft, warm, singing. Hush now, little one, the stars are watching over you. The officer froze. His weapon lowered. Around him, other officers, scientists, guards, they all stopped. They listened. No one spoke. No one moved. The song ended. Silence fell. Then, from the back of the room, a child's voice, small, trembling, whispered, "Was that real?" Yunji looked at them all. Yes, she said. It was. And for the first time in 20,000 years, someone in the Galactic Concord dared to believe.
The data crystal was small, no bigger than a thumbnail, but its weight felt like the entire universe pressing down on Yunji's palm. She stood in the center of Nara 7's main control room, surrounded by officers, scientists, and security personnel who had gathered to witness what she called the truth. Some looked skeptical, others curious, but all were silent now, their attention fixed on the glowing screen where the crystal's contents were being displayed. Ji-hoon sat at the terminal, his hands trembling slightly as he uploaded the files. Min-soo stood nearby, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. His expression was calm, but his eyes darted around the room, watching for any sign of hostility. They had broken protocol. They had risked everything. And now, they were about to show the Concord something it wasn't ready to see. As the first file loaded, the screen flickered to life. A grainy video appeared, an old recording from the Hwaseong. The image showed a crowded chamber filled with people wearing simple uniforms, their faces lined with exhaustion but also determination. In the center stood Captain Day 1, younger and stronger than the ghostly figure they had met aboard the ship. His voice was clear, steady, and carried the weight of someone who knew this might be humanity's last message. "This is Captain Day 1 of the SS Hwaseong," he began. "If you are watching this, then we have failed. Humanity has chosen silence to survive. We stripped away our language, our culture, our memories. We became ghosts, hoping the entity would pass us by. But if you are here, it means the entity has returned, or worse, it knows we exist." The room fell completely silent. Even the hum of machinery seemed to fade into the background. The assembled crowd stared at the screen, their faces unreadable. For many, this was the first time they had ever heard a human speak. To them, humanity was a myth, a cautionary tale told in history classes. But now here was proof that humans hadn't just died or vanished. They had made a choice, a desperate, unimaginable choice. Yunji glanced at Ji-hoon. He was pale, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the console. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the fear, the hope, the responsibility of carrying such a burden. She wanted to say something to reassure him, but there were no words. Not yet. The next file played automatically. It was a series of images, photos, drawings, and holograms captured during the journey of the Hwaseong. There were pictures of Earth before its collapse. Lush forests, sprawling cities, smiling families. There were snapshots of life aboard the ship. Children playing in zero gravity, engineers repairing damaged systems, farmers tending hydroponic gardens. And then there were darker images, bodies wrapped in shrouds, empty cryopods, walls covered in frantic scribbles that looked like attempts to preserve fading memories. One image lingered longer than the others. It showed a group of crew members gathered around a large mural painted on the wall. The mural depicted a tree, with roots stretching deep into the ground and branches reaching toward the stars. At the base of the tree were words written in multiple languages. "We remember, so we may live." "That's," Ji-hoon whispered, his voice breaking. "That's why they stayed silent. That's why they erased themselves." Yunji nodded. They gave up their identity to protect it, to keep it alive, even if only in fragments. Min-soo stepped forward, his lantern still in hand. "And now, What happens when the rest of the Concorde sees this? Before anyone could answer, another file began to play. This one was different. Instead of images or videos, it was audio, a cacophony of sounds layered over each other. Voices speaking in dozens of languages, songs sung in harmonies both joyful and mournful, laughter, crying, whispers, shouts. It was overwhelming, chaotic, beautiful, and beneath it all, faint but unmistakable, was the rhythmic pulse of the signal that had led them to the Hwaseong. The sound filled the room, echoing off the walls and reverberating through the bodies of everyone present. Some covered their ears, overwhelmed by the intensity. Others closed their eyes, letting the waves of noise wash over them. A few wept openly, though whether from sadness or awe, it was impossible to tell. When the audio faded, the final file appeared on the screen. It was a single document, written in plain text. Ji-hoon opened it and began reading aloud. To whoever finds this, we are not gone. We are waiting. The listener is real. It consumes civilizations that grow too loud, too proud, too visible. We silenced ourselves to survive. We became shadows to endure. But silence is not death. Silence is patience. If you hear this, it means the listener is near. Do not fight it. Do not run. Listen, remember, be still, and know this. We are still here. We are still human, and we will speak again. The words hung in the air like smoke, lingering long after Ji-hoon finished speaking. No one moved. No one spoke. The room was heavy with the weight of what they had just witnessed. Finally, one of the officers, a tall, stern-faced woman named Commander Rin, cleared her throat. "What do you expect us to do with this?" she asked, her voice sharp but tinged with unease. "This revelation changes nothing. The Concorde cannot base decisions on myths and legends." "It's not a myth," Yunji said firmly, stepping forward. "It's history. It's truth. Humanity didn't vanish. They adapted. They survived. And now they're asking us to remember." Rin shook her head. "Even if what you say is true, broadcasting this to the Concorde will cause panic, chaos. People will demand answers we can't give. Governments will act impulsively. Wars may start. Is that what you want?" "No," Yunji replied. "But ignoring it won't help either. The listener isn't just a threat to humanity. It's a threat to every species in the galaxy. If we don't prepare, if we don't understand, then we'll repeat the same mistakes. We'll shout until the stars go dark." Rin studied her for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to the others in the room. "Does anyone else agree with her?" For a moment, no one responded. The tension was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Then slowly, a young xenobiologist named Kyle raised his hand. "I believe her," he said quietly. "If humanity could survive by staying silent, maybe there's something we can learn from them." Another scientist nodded. "She's right. The listener isn't just humanity's problem. It's ours, too." One by one, more hands went up. Not everyone agreed, but enough did to make a difference. Rin sighed, rubbing her temples. "Fine. We'll send the data to the Concorde Council, but I'm holding you three responsible for whatever happens next." Yunji bowed her head slightly. "Understood." As the meeting dispersed, Ji-hoon approached her. "Do you think they'll listen? Really listen?" "I don't know," Yunji admitted. "But we've done all we can. Now it's up to them." Min-soo joined them, his lantern casting soft shadows on the floor. "What about the Hwaseong? Should we go back?" Yunji hesitated. "Not yet. Not until we know how the Concorde will respond. If they decide to destroy the ship, to erase the evidence, we'll need to be ready to stop them." Ji-hoon frowned. "You think they'd do that?" "They might," Yunji said grimly. "Fear makes people do terrible things." Over the next few days, the data spread throughout Nara 7. Scientists analyzed it, historians debated it, and ordinary workers whispered about it in the corridors. The song, the lullaby sung by the woman, became an unofficial anthem hummed quietly by those who dared to remember. Meanwhile, the Concord Council reviewed the findings. Their response was cautious but undeniable. They issued a statement acknowledging the discovery of the Hwaseong and the possibility of humanity's survival. However, they also warned against drawing conclusions without further evidence. Investigations were launched, fleets mobilized, and debates raged across the galaxy. But amidst the chaos, something remarkable happened. People began to listen, not just to the signal, but to each other. Artists created works inspired by the mural on the Hwaseong. Poets wrote verses in forgotten human languages. Musicians composed symphonies using fragments of the songs recovered from the ship. Even children started drawing trees with roots and branches, copying the symbol of remembrance. Back on Nara 7, Yunji watched these developments with a mixture of hope and dread. She knew the listener was still out there, growing closer with every passing day. But she also knew that humanity's silence had been a gift, not just to themselves, but to the galaxy. By choosing to remember, perhaps they could teach others to do the same. Late one night, Ji-hoon found her staring out a viewport at the endless expanse of stars. "Do you think we'll ever meet them again?" he asked softly. "The ones who stayed silent?" Yunji didn't look away from the window. "Maybe, or maybe they'll come to us. Either way, we'll be ready." Behind them, Min-soo lit his lantern, its warm glow filling the room. "Until then," he said, "we wait, and we listen." And so they did. This concludes Part 4. Let me know when you're ready for Part 5.
It played on every screen, every speaker, every public channel in the Galactic Concord. The song, the names, the drawings, the poems, the recipes, the jokes, the last words of a mother to her child, the final diary entry of a man who missed the rain, the quiet hum of a lullaby sung in a language no one had heard in 20,000 years. People stopped eating, stopped working, stopped fighting. They just listened. On the warship Course 7, 2 soldiers who had spent years hunting human relics sat side by side in the mess hall, staring at the wall screen. One had a tattoo of a human skull on his arm. The other had a child's drawing of a star taped to his helmet. Neither spoke. Neither moved. When the song ended, the soldier with the tattoo reached up and slowly peeled it off. He threw it into the trash. On the farming moon of Tel 4, an old woman who had never believed in ghosts sat in her garden, holding a cracked cup of tea. She had been told her whole life that humans were monsters, loud, greedy, violent. But now she heard a voice singing to a baby. A voice that sounded like her own grandmother's. She whispered, "I think I miss them." The Concord's leaders did not know what to do. They had spent centuries teaching their people that humanity was a warning, a mistake, a species that burned too bright and vanished too fast. Now the warning had become a mirror, and the mirror showed them something they did not like. They had forgotten how to feel. The council called an emergency vote. 67 species sent delegates, all of them gathered in the grand hall of the Concord, a massive dome made of glass and light, where decisions that shaped galaxies were made. The president stood at the center. He was old. His face was tired. He did not wear his usual robes of power. He wore simple gray clothes. He looked out at the crowd. "I have read the logs," he said. "I have heard the songs. I have seen the names, and I do not know how to feel." A murmur ran through the hall. He continued, "We thought we were the heirs of the universe. We thought we were the ones who survived because we were stronger, faster, smarter. We thought humanity fell because they were weak." He paused. "But what if they fell because they were brave?" Silence. A delegate from the Krithani, once the fiercest hunters of human ships, stood up. His body was armored in black metal. His voice was deep, heavy with emotion. "They called us monsters," he said. "We called them savages. We killed their children in the name of safety. We burned their ships. We called them ghosts because we were afraid to remember what we had done. He looked down. I have a daughter. She is 7. Last night she asked me, Dad, what did humans look like? I didn't know. I told her they were evil, but now, I don't know what to say. He sat down. No one clapped. No one cheered. But many in the hall were crying. Yoonji, Jihoon, and Minsu were brought before the council. They were not chained. They were not accused. They were simply asked to sit. The president looked at them. You are the first humans to return, he said. What do you want? Jihoon looked at Yoonji. She nodded. He stood. We don't want anything, he said. Not power, not land, not revenge. He took a breath. We want you to remember. Yoonji spoke next. We didn't come back to take anything from you, she said. We came back to give you back what you lost. Minsu, quiet as always, spoke last. We didn't run from death, he said. We ran from forgetting. The room was still. Then the president sat down. He looked at the screen behind him where the song was still playing softly. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he said, We have a choice. He turned to the delegates. We can destroy the Hwaseong. We can erase this memory. We can go back to our old ways. We can pretend this never happened, he paused. Or, we can listen. A long silence followed. Then, one by one, delegates began to stand. First, the Krithani, then the Valians, then the Lirthan, then the ones who had once hunted humans, one after another. They stood, until nearly every delegate was on their feet. Only a few remained seated, the ones who had built their power on fear. One of them, a tall, cold-eyed leader from the Zarn Dominion, stood slowly. You are fools, he said. This is not a gift. This is a weapon, a memory that can be used to break us. Humanity is dangerous because they chose silence. That means they can choose to speak again. And when they do, they will not be gentle. The president looked at him. Then let them speak, he said. The Zarn leader's eyes widened. You would allow them to return? We did not stop them from coming, the president replied. We did not stop them from speaking. We did not stop them from showing us what we forgot. He turned to the council. Let the Hwaseong be honored. Let its story be taught in every school. Let every child learn the names of those who died so others might live. The Zarn leader stepped back. You will regret this. We already do, the president said. But not for the right reasons. The vote was taken, 143. Species. 142 voted to remember. Only one voted to destroy. The Hwaseong would not be burned. It would be preserved. It would be visited. It would be loved. The conquered would learn the language of silence, and they would learn to speak again, but not everyone was happy. That night, in a hidden chamber beneath the conquered's capital, a group of leaders met in secret. They called themselves the Keepers of Order. They believed peace could only be kept by control, by fear, by forgetting what made people dangerous. Their leader, a woman named Su-Yun, stood before them. She was not old. She was not loud, but her voice was sharp enough to cut steel. They are weak, she said. They let emotion rule them. They let a ghost ship make them cry. That is not strength. That is madness, the others nodded. We must act, she said. Before the whole galaxy becomes soft. One of them asked, What will we do? Su-Yan smiled, cold, quiet, perfect. We will silence the silence. She turned to a screen. On it, the image of the Hwaseong floated in space. Around it, the conquered had begun to send ships not to destroy it, but to protect it. To honor it, Su-Yan tapped a button. A single command was sent. A small, silent drone hidden in the dust of the Oort cloud. Activated. It had no weapons, no shields, no engines. Just a single device, a memory eraser, a machine built by the old Concord long ago to wipe out dangerous knowledge. It did not kill. It did not burn. It simply made people forget. It was designed to erase memories of war, of rebellion, of truth. Now it was aimed at the Hwaseong. Its signal would spread through the Concord's networks. One by one, the songs would fade. The names would vanish from records. The drawings would blur. The voices would disappear. The silence would return, and humanity would be forgotten again. No one would know what had been lost. No one would remember why they cried. Su-Yan watched the drone's light blink green. It is done, she whispered, but she did not know. The Hwaseong was not just a ship. It was a memory, and memories do not die easily. In the chamber of the Huaxiong, deep in the dark, something stirred. The core, still alive, had felt the drone's approach. It had sensed the threat, and it had made a choice. It did not fight. It did not hide. It did not run. It simply opened and began to sing, not with sound, not with words, but with light. A pulse of color, blue, gold, green, shot from the ship's hull and spread into space like a wave. It touched every ship, every station, every screen, every mind connected to the Concord's network, and for one moment, everyone who had heard the song felt it again, not as a memory, as a feeling, a warmth, a love, a mother's voice, a child's laugh, a name whispered in the dark. The drone's signal hit. It tried to erase, but it could not, because the Huaxiong had not stored its memories in machines. It had stored them in hearts, and hearts cannot be erased. On the planet Vera, a child woke up crying. "Mommy," she said, "I dreamed about a man who sang to the stars." Her mother hugged her.
"I know, sweetheart."
"Me too." On the warship Core 7, the soldier who had thrown away his tattoo woke up with a new one on his arm. It was not a skull. It was a star, and beneath it, written in small letters, "We remember." On the Concord capital, Su-Yan sat in her chamber, staring at the screen. The drone's signal had failed. The Huaxiong still sang, the memories still lived. She looked at her hands, and for the first time in her life, she felt something she had been taught to fear. She felt regret. She reached for her comm. She did not call for backup. She did not call for weapons. She called for a shuttle, and when she stepped aboard, she did not say where she was going. She only whispered, "Take me to the ship." The pilot looked at her. "Why?" Su-Yan closed her eyes. "Because," she said, I want to hear it again." The shuttle flew through the dark, and when it reached the Huaxiong, Su-Yan stepped out alone. The airlock opened. The ship welcomed her. She walked. Inside, she found the chamber where Day-Wan had sat. She found the book. She opened it, and she read. She read every page. She read the names. She read the lullaby. She read the last words of a man who missed the rain. She read the drawing of the child holding hands with stars. And when she finished, she sat down and she cried. Not because she was afraid, not because she was sorry, but because she had forgotten what it meant to be human. And now, she remembered. She did not speak. She did not call for help. She did not try to stop the song. She just stayed and listened. And for the first time in a long time, she felt peace. The next morning, Su-Yan was gone. No one knew where she had gone. Some said she had run. Some said she had been killed. But on the wall of the Huaxiong, near the book, a new note had been added. It was written in clean, careful letters. "I was wrong. I thought silence was Khan.